Welcome to Part of the Solution, because what the world really needed was another podcast, except for this one actually cuts through the noise. Hi, I'm Natalie, your coach, speaker, truth teller, and your favorite no BS friend. Around here, we're talking health, healing, habits, hormones, and how to finally grow a mindset that gets out of your own way. There's no filters, just real conversations that might actually change your life. Okay, welcome back to Part of the Solution podcast. Today in the studio, I've got my girl, Heather Nelson. Now, this is our second attempt at a podcast interview because the first one, the sound was screwed up. That was a user error on my end. And so, Heather, welcome back to the show again.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back. We're going to talk about something completely different, which I'm totally okay with. But so thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we're going on a completely different route. But first, let's just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do. She's a badass. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's got her hands in all sorts of things. And we're going to talk about a really unique topic today, but just introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. It's interesting. I'm also a podcaster, and I just had somebody on the other day and I said, introduce yourself. And she actually talked about who she was as a person first before she said her entrepreneurship. So someday I'm going to introduce myself there. But for now, I'm going to give you the resume version. My name is Heather Nelson. I am a mother of 3, blended family. I have a 19-year-old in college, 14 and 11-year-old child with my ex-husband, and then a wonderful, crazy 4-year-old with my current husband. As Natalie said, I am an entrepreneur. Two businesses. I have the Connection Hive, which is a business development strategy company that comes from my passion of building relationships. And I really believe that any business can move forward if they have the right strategies in place to grow their business by organic relationships and building trust. And so just working with clients to understand the importance of that. My husband and I own Set and Strike, which is a event labor company. We specialize in helping wineries and venues and planners to set up for events. And that comes from my many, many years of working in the event industry. I am a co-founder of Empower Your Path Retreat, which Natalie has been one of our speakers. I say this as it is a side project, but it is like another business. We have a website and we have all of the things. So we do women's retreats. We're about to host our 5th in person in November 14th. So we're working on planning that. I am a podcaster. My show is Life Conversations with a Twist. I interview women who have unique stories, who've been through hard times. Natalie's also been on my podcast as well. And just really want to empower women to share their stories and really help support other women who might be going through the same thing. And I'm a surrogate. I'm on my second journey to being a surrogate. So I think that's everything.
Are you sure you didn't leave anything out?
Most people forget that they have a husband, and I do have a husband. I did mention that, but I also am a wife as well.
Yeah, I know that's a lot going on, and all of those are so meaningful and so powerful. Like Heather was saying, I have been to a retreat. I spoke at a retreat. I was also on her podcast, and I would say a lot of the things you're associated with are these heart-led movements, they really mean a lot. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of healing. There's a lot of stuff happening. And so I definitely think that is your zone of genius. And there's a lot of great stories on your podcast. I love it.
Thank you. It's funny that you say that because I'm in this process of wanting to know what my zone of genius is and what is it that I want to lean into, because I feel like I do too much and I really want to narrow it down. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I'm very, very passionate about is my podcast. I love my podcast. Everyone's you're such a great speaker. I love connecting with women all over the world. So I'm trying to lean into how do I move that forward? How do I make money doing that? And really be able to, make more of an impact. So that's kind of where my focus is right now. And the retreat is fun. And I get so many people who say those retreats have changed their lives. So I have to continue to do that because that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, I think for you, probably the zone of genius is connection, community connection, finding this. And I feel the same way. It's all about finding this core root and helping people process that or move forward or move past whatever's blocking them, whether it is in work or business or personal
Mm-hmm.
connection. I mean, that's in the name. That's, like, I think that's all encompassing. And I think you and I are on similar journeys of how can we leave a mark in this time that we have.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And it's like taking the things that we've been through and being able to really use that as like our motivation to get us through, and to motivate other women to know, and men, how to get through hard times to be able to like live the life that you love. And your story is very similar to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's just jump into today's episode topic, which is your journey with surrogacy, which for me seems crazy, right? Like something I've never thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I considered it for a moment when a good friend couldn't conceive, but it's there's so much to it. When I actually looked into it, there was so much to it. So talk about, like, how did you first discover this? How did you first think, or did somebody approach you, or like how did this first pop into your world?
I mean, I was like you. Like, I didn't know anything about it really. I had a coworker years ago who was a surrogate. I remember she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant, but I'm going to be a surrogate." And I was like I had heard of it, but at the time you hear about it with Kim Kardashians and these like famous people who for multiple reasons can't carry. And so I was like, "What is this?" And I remember her coming in my office one day, and she just like totally told. I asked her like 5,000 questions, and I was super intrigued. There was
Mhm.
something that hit me that I was like, okay, this is something that I'm really interested in. So I did my research. I like looked online. I actually got connected with the agency that I used the first time, had an interview with them, asked all the questions, was very, very interested. But at the time, and by this time, I had two kids. I had my daughter and my son. My son was kind of just a baby, but I loved being pregnant. I was like one of those weirdos that loved being pregnant, thought I was so beautiful, never had any issues. I should knock on wood. Never had anything horrible happen through my pregnancies, and I had really good births. Like I remember them being very smooth and quick, and so I was like, okay, so I know that I can handle that. This though is very intriguing to me because I'm like, I knew that I didn't want to have another child, but I was like, I want to be pregnant again. And so my husband at the time was like, absolutely not. When I approached him, he was like, what? No,
Yeah,
absolutely not. You're
that
not
sounds
doing this.
crazy. What do you mean you don't want another kid, but
And
you?
most men do, right? That's their reaction. They're
Yeah.
like, what? And of course, it's because they don't know. They don't know a lot of it. So I tried to educate him, and he was like, no, this is not something that I, am on board with. So I put that kind of thought aside. And then fast forward a few years later, we got divorced, and I thought about it again. And I was like, I really want to do this again. Or I want to look into it again. And so I had approached my current husband about it, and he was the same reaction. No, absolutely not. I was like, just hear me out, listen to it, jump on some calls with me, like let's just hear about it. And he did. And the thing for him was he's Latino, he's Catholic. He was on board, but he was definitely very worried about like, what's my family gonna think? Of course I did too. Like at the time I hadn't told anybody. Like I had a couple friends that knew, but I didn't even tell my family.
Yeah.
I remember telling them, it was like, I think telling them was probably harder than telling them I was getting a divorce because it was such a foreign thing, right? They were like, what is
Did they
this?
support this, or did they
You
just have
know,
questions?
it's interesting. I didn't think that they would, and they did. And it's funny, the person who I definitely was like, she is not going to be on board is my grandma, because she's very old school and very Catholic. And I thought for sure she was, and she did at first, but she's probably my number one supporter, and she's probably the one now who asks the most, like, how's your first baby? And like, she's definitely more engaged. And we'll get to that. When I told her I was going to do it a second time, she lost her marbles again. So, but I think it's because she's older now. So yeah, I did the research. I met this fantastic agency they were down in LA at the time, and then we got matched. So that was kind of like how my journey of like learning to get to that point. That's how we got there.
And people essentially can just be involved in this business, and then they pick you, basically, or like, like how does the matching process work?
There's so many different ways now. Like I think there's my journey that I'm about to take now. We're going out of agency, but I really highly recommend if anybody's like interested, you should probably do an agency your first time, just because they kind of help navigate the whole process. The process is not like, oh, you're matched and you go and have a baby in like 2 months. I mean, it's like a years and years worth of journey. So basically you apply. So I think I always joke around, the application is like 90 pages. I mean, they want to know everything. They want to know what your lifestyle's like. They want to know what your births have been like. That's the other thing. They only take people who've had babies before. I don't know if that's a big requirement for most agencies, but I know majority of them do. Only because like, if you've never been through the process before, mentally and physically, like there's nothing to really compare to. So
Yeah, that seems very smart.
yeah.
Like, yeah, you don't want a newbie no
Yeah.
way.
So you have to have had babies before. Obviously, I had two. And so you fill out this application and you kind of go into the pool. And then if you are a family that's looking for a surrogate, it's the same thing. So they, fill out probably a pretty similar application. And then the agency matches you, and they match you by kind of like your lifestyles, kind of like what you're looking for. I mean, they ask you questions from what type of parents do you want to work for? Are you okay with same-sex couples? Want a relationship with the baby after? So these are all questions that you kind of have to, kind of figure out. So then they match you. Most people don't know this. I was matched to two gay guys. They lived in Sweden, because there's a lot of countries that don't allow surrogacy, and you probably see a lot more of it in the news lately. So a lot of people come out of their country to the US to be able to have a baby. But even not every state allows it either. California does, but there's a lot of states that don't. So there's a lot of international families that are looking for surrogates, and I would say that's probably most of what the intended parents are. So I was matched to them. We went through the whole process, went through the transfer. They only had one embryo, and so when we did the transfer and it didn't take, they didn't want to continue with the journey. So that I went through the journey up until that point, and then they decided not to move forward. So I went back into the pool of finding a match, and then I was matched to this wonderful woman. She was a single mom. She always wanted a baby. She was never married. She didn't have her own eggs, so she had to go get, egg. She had to go find an egg donor. She had to find a sperm donor and then a surrogate. And she had been doing this process for over 4 years, trying to get matched with a surrogate.
Could you have donated your eggs and be the surrogate?
You can, absolutely. And some people like look for that. That was one of the things that I was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't want another human, like my DNA out in the world. I will absolutely be the oven and cook them and give birth to them. But I do not want to know that like I have another child out there. But some people are okay with that.
Yeah.
God,
what a hard, crazy decision to make.
Yeah. I'm having my intended parents on the podcast because I want to learn more about the matching of like the eggs and the sperm, because that's like a whole experience, which I obviously have no idea about, but it's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like you basically go through a profile of what you want your kid to look like: blue eyes, blonde hair, what kind of nationality, all the things. It's the first journey, I felt like I was in it, but I wasn't as curious. Now I'm very curious about everything. And so further, I'm working on like a whole surrogacy season for my podcast just around surrogacy, about all the different things, the different parts of it, because I'm very intrigued by it. So I'll have to stay tuned for that. So yeah, I was matched to her, and she was in Florida, we were in California. We get on a call with the agency, and they, prompt you through an interview process. It's kind of like a blind date, to be honest. And we got matched. And so we just vibed really well. We just felt that like instant connection. And that's how I started my first journey.
And so you guys obviously went through the process. Tell me about the process and the pregnancy and all of that.
Yeah. So once you get through the application process, you're like matched up. Then you got to go through a very big series of background check, psychological screening. They want to make sure you're not crazy. They ask you all the questions. And some of these questions are hard. It's like, what happens if you're pregnant and they find out the baby has Down syndrome? Or what if there's a situation where you might have to abort the baby? Like, how would you handle that? And those, like, kind of the hard questions that you don't really want to talk about, but
Yeah.
obviously very good to know. So we go through all of that. We go through background, and
And
then
would you guys handle that together? Like, do you come to a decision with this woman and yourself together? Or was there
yes.
ever an issue where you guys completely disagreed?
No, because
No.
they usually, when they're going through the matching process, really like zone that in, and especially some of those hard things is
Yeah.
making sure like you guys are both on the same page with it. Once you get through that, you go through a contract, and the contract is really where it is. It's another like 90-page contract, and it's every single scenario that could happen. What happens if you give birth and something happens to the parents, those kinds of things. So you go to contract.
Do you have to hire somebody to help you with that? Like lawyers, like,
So if you go through an agency, the intended parents are pretty much responsible for anything financial. So they get a lawyer, and then I get a lawyer as a surrogate, and so they're different lawyers. And
yeah.
so one drafts up the contract, the other one reviews it, and then we get on a call and go through line by line, making sure you agree, and that includes like compensation, pretty much everything. It's like your Bible, basically. So once that's done and signed, then you go through the process of medical screening. You go in and make sure your uterus is good to go, and you start that process. And that process can be a while because depending on like if you're on birth control, you got to come off birth control, then you got to wait and have a few cycles, and then like that process definitely takes a while. And then once they figure out a transfer date, that's when you start your hormones, like your pills and your shots and all that stuff, and then you go for your transfer.
How long do you have to do the hormones and the shots prior? Because you have
So
to prepare your body essentially. You're not doing it the old-fashioned way, so you have to, like, prep and get ready. What does that process look like?
So it's basically 2 pills morning and night, about 2 weeks out, and then about 5 days before the transfer, you start taking your shots.
What are
And
those
that's
shots and the pills?
estrogen's the pills, progesterone is the shots, and
Gotcha.
that starts 5 days before. And then you do a shot once a night up until you're 12 weeks. Let
Of
me
the
tell you,
progesterone.
yes,
Yeah.
my hips and my booty hurt
Yeah.
all the time.
Do you have to just inject it into, like, a fatty area, basically?
Basically, your booty, your upper, your like butt area, thigh area, but it's very tender right now, and you get like lumps. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's worth it, but it's it's a hard process for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, that starts very, at least 2 weeks before the transfer.
Mhm.
So, in my first journey, so that happened. I went in for my first transfer. We flew down to San Diego. That was the one thing. So, the fertility clinic where the embryo is held was in San Diego. It's a fertility clinic in San Diego. That is where you go for your medical. So, I had to go down to San Diego for that screening, and then I went back for the transfer. When I went back for the transfer, that's when I met the mom. We finally met in person. She was in the room with us during the transfer. It's just always kind of weird. You're like, I just met this lady, and she's like here in a room with me, and I'm about to like get impregnated by her baby. It's
Yeah.
kind of a weird
Oh,
thing.
I'm sure that's such a weird, surreal moment for both of you. I'm sure she's like, this is crazy."
And the weirdest thing is like, you go to the doctor. It's like, can I see your ID? They like never once asked for my ID. I'm like, what if I'm not Heather? Like, what?
Yeah. What if you
I
were
mean, I
some
guess
random stranger?
who's going to show up to just like randomly get pregnant? Not really sure, but I just think it's so bizarre that like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, the transfer took. I became pregnant, and then we started our journey. And so because she was further away, like obviously she couldn't come to any of the appointments, but I would video her in on the appointments. She'd check in once a week with me. She always wanted to know like how I was feeling. She always wanted photos of my baby bump.
Did you have your own OB here, like, close to your house?
That's a great question. So you go for the transfer, you go to a fertility clinic in wherever the embryo is. And then when you come back, I was monitored by a fertility clinic here in Sonoma County. up until 12 weeks. And then at 12 weeks, you get released to your regular OB. And so then I went to my OB, and she knew the drill. Like, she knew it was a surrogacy. She was like, let's call the mom. Mom's on video while we do the exam. And she got to see the heartbeat and, all that like fun things. So, and
We
then
can we back up for a minute? Earlier you spoke about compensation. Let's talk about compensation if you don't mind. Like, is that how does that work out? Is that from the company? Is that is that part of being matched? Like what she can spend versus what you want, or how does that work?
Great question. I'm actually curious on their end, kind of how it works, because I'm not 100%. Depending on the agency, they all kind of range. And I think it's kind of up for negotiation. They can range anywhere. I've seen from like 45 and now 45,000 for the journey all the way up to 100,000. So again, I don't know what dictates that. I guess it's really the surrogate to kind of like advocate for themselves. But basically, they go in, I think, with like a set amount, and then they kind of create like an account. They call it an escrow account, where they put the money in there, and then each month it gets withdrawal. So you always get like a monthly stipend, which is like usually a couple $100s, and that's for like prenatals and pregnancy tests and kind of like your basic things. And then you get money for your actual transfer. There's different pay structures for if there's a termination of the pregnancy, if you have to do a mock cycle, there's different pay structures based on different scenarios. And then you get like a monthly stipend, basically, of like, that's basically your payment of how much you get each month. Each one of my journeys was a little different, but the first one is like I got a lump sum.
Yeah.
And then you would get like a lump sum for pregnancy clothes, and near the end you got like house cleaning fees and things like that, because they really want to make sure you're comfortable during the process. So again, it ranges and it's all negotiable. I definitely negotiated a little bit more this time, only because I had been through that pregnancy plus my 4-year-old's pregnancy, and I'm 43. I'm about to be 43 in a couple weeks. So I know how my body's going to react, and I'm like, I want to make sure I'm comfortable. Like, I want chiropractic each week. And so all of those things were negotiated to be built into the contract.
Yeah.
And that's, again, you sign it and then you just get fed monthly. They cover all your medical expenses. So if there's any out-of-pocket costs, like all our blood work we've had to pay for. And so you just submit basically an expense and then they pay it.
Yeah. And then what about like maternity leave and things like that? How does that work out?
You do get it, and you can also file like state disability, pregnancy leave, but I think it's only up for a certain amount of time. The first journey, I actually was only going to be off a month. And so those are, of course, things that you can negotiate, but I knew I was only going to be off a month, and I knew I was already getting paid, so I didn't really negotiate it. But then funny enough, COVID happened, and so I got unemployment anyways because I got temporary furloughed. So I was already compensated that way. This journey, because I'm a self-employed, is a little bit different. So, those are things that they have to factor in, like how much you get paid, are you going to be able to work? Luckily, I'm able to still work. Like, I don't have a physical job that requires me, or I don't have to go in somewhere. So we've negotiated that to make sure that I'm covered for that.
Gotcha.
And for your partner. So, if your partner has to take leave for any reason during the birth or after, that is also built in as well.
And where will you give birth? At that
Here.
San Diego place?
No, here in Sonoma County.
And she'll come here, I assume.
Yes.
Gotcha.
She did come here. So she came 2 weeks prior to my due date, just to make sure she was here. And my baby girl was a week late. So she was here for 3 weeks. And then, so went into the hospital, and obviously it was having contractions. My water broke, went in for contractions, and she was there for the whole entire journey. Her and my husband were there. Again, COVID was just becoming a thing. Like, it was like starting to, I think it like hit China, and people were talking about it and like questioning travel. And so we were kind of like, what? So luckily she was lucky enough to be in the room.
For sure. And how was that, having her in the room? Like, at that point where you just bonded and it was like, holy shit, we're doing this together, the three of us?
Yep.
Yeah.
They came She came down to California for the when they determine the ultrasound that determines the birth the sex of the baby. So we were able to see each other again, and like we went out to dinner and we had a really nice time. And that's when she got to really get to know Dennis. She brought her mom with her, and so we had a really beautiful experience. So
Yeah,
we
it
were already
sounds
pretty
great.
bonded at that point.
Yeah.
So she was just so excited. I mean, like, I can't even. This lady was like over the moon. Like, I knew she was going to be the best mom ever just because this is something that she's always wanted. And like, this was finally happening for her. And so I gave birth. And part of the things that you talk about prior to, you do like a whole thing with the hospital of like what that experience is going to look like. Like when the baby comes out, who's going to have the baby, who's doing skin to skin, are you going to breastfeed? Like all of those things have to be worked out. And so we had agreed that once the baby comes out, she was going to do skin to skin. I was not going to breastfeed. And I never really produced anyways. I was going to try and pump, but I'll get to that. But so baby came out, went straight to her, and it was like the most beautiful experience I could have ever imagined. Like just the excitement for her to see like this little human is like here for her. She had a doula, so she was also in the room by that time and helping her. And so, yeah, like I would say, anybody who's been through birth, like you're in this like room with this baby, and you're, got this diaper on and pads and like all this weird things, and you're trying to breastfeed. It was very weird because she went to her own room with the baby, and then me and my husband went to my room, and it was kind of like, okay, now what,
Yeah. Are we done? Like, yeah,
Can
that
I go
has to
home?
be.
Like, I
Yeah,
think
emotionally, how was that? Like, did a maternal instinct kick in, or was your excitement overworked that did, how did you feel emotionally when you were like, wait a minute?
I never felt a bond with the baby. Like
Mhm.
I think leading up to it, they make it pretty clear this is not your baby. Even in the transfer, they're like, they come in and the doctor comes in with the embryo on this like very fine needle, and they're like, this is the embryo for the parents' names. I mean, it feels very like transactional, to
Yeah,
be
so you
honest.
bonded with the woman, the mother. You didn't bond necessarily with that baby. Gotcha.
Mm-mm. I mean, of course, when I see her, I'm always like, oh, and like I want to hear about her and I want to see
For sure.
photos and um but I knew like at that point like this I'm here. It's almost like a job. Like I'm
Yep.
here to give birth and then she's going to go to mom. She did let me hold
It's
her.
like the ultimate connection for somebody.
Yeah. She's so thankful to this day. I mean, she texts me all the time, and we just had this beautiful relationship. And when I get a chance to go down to Florida, I would love to meet her now. She just started kindergarten. And so it's just really cool to be a part of it.
Does she know who you are? Is there a presence in
Yes.
her life?
She does. I forget what she calls me. Because she'll like make little videos and send them to me like on Mother's Day or my birthday. So I don't think she knows the extent of who I am yet, but she knows that like I am somebody in her life.
Yeah.
I forget what birth mama or I'd have to look back. I can't. It's cute. So we still have a great relationship, and even leading up to this second journey for me, she has even talked to the parents, and because they wanted to meet her and get
Like
her
a referral.
experience.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, and
Yeah.
she was, obviously over the moon talking about me. So they're like, "There's no doubt she loves you." I
Yeah.
was like, "Thank
Well,
you."
and that's, I mean, as we know, we're in businesses and we go on referrals. And so when you talk to somebody else and they're just so like taken back by what you did for them and just so grateful and thankful and they can vouch for you, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. Your new couple is lucky, or I'm not sure if it's a couple or if it's a single person, is so lucky to know that you've gone through this before so that they can speak with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so when the baby came out, I did get to meet her, and then I went home. I want to say because I think she was born like super early in the morning. I went home that day, and so then again, it was just like going home. It's like you're wheeling your little, I'm still in a wheelchair, and like I have my stuff, but I have no baby. So
Yeah.
that was like probably one of the moments where I was like, this feels a little weird. And then you go home, and then I'm like, okay, now what?
Back to normal life.
Back to life.
Yeah.
So, well, then the pandemic happened, and that was a whole set of
So you
chaos.
didn't even get a chance to maybe grieve or mourn or have any feelings towards it, really? And do
No.
you think that was maybe a blessing in disguise?
I kind of think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think everything is always meant to be. It really made me refocus on my like now what is my goals in life? I think I lost so much weight. I was like super like into fitness and working out and eating healthier, and so I mean we had nothing else to do. I mean I
it
did
was a
drink, of
reset.
course,
Yeah.
but so I've always believed things happen for a reason, and then I think it was a nice kind of like break, and then I didn't have to go to work and people ask me 5,000 questions about the baby and like, how do you feel? And,
Yeah, was there like, it's like when you're pregnant and people just ask you the same question because everybody's curious and everybody's excited and you're like, "Oh my god," like,
yeah.
"When is this gonna be over?" Did you get I assume you got the question of, like, "How did it feel to not bring this baby home?" Or, was there judgment? Were people super supportive or negative? How did friends and family handle this?
That was probably the one thing I was nervous about is like, what is everyone going to think? And it was my career, like my job at the time was I was like business development. I was meeting with new people. I was meeting with clients. I mean, I was constantly around strangers, new people. It wasn't like I was home by myself all the time. I was out in the world. And so I definitely had to talk about it a lot, especially when you're showing, because everyone's like, oh, you're pregnant. And you're like, well, but everybody was so in awe. Everyone always was like, I'm so inspired by you. So I got a lot of great feedback. I would say the only time that I didn't was older men for some reason that thought it was weird. And especially more when my husband was around. Like if I was with him, they would always ask him questions like, how do you feel about this? You're okay with your wife being pregnant with someone else's baby?
How did he feel?
He felt, of course, it was a new experience for him. And he's a pretty private person, so I think he didn't he didn't like talking about it all that much. But he's like, you know what? I'm supportive. This is something you've wanted to do. I support you. You've supported me and all of the things that I've wanted to do. And so he was always very kind, and he would always say that, this is something she's wanted to do. I'm just being the supportive husband. So he always had great responses, but we got some weird things for sure by the old white men.
Yeah, I bet. So, let's talk about this journey.
hmm
So time out, let's back up. You had that baby, and then you had your own baby.
hmm So one of the things my husband told me was, I will let you be a surrogate, but I want you to give me a baby. And I was like, okay. I didn't really want to have a baby. Again, I was definitely okay not. But of course, I wanted one. He had a daughter. I had my two, and both from different partners. And so I'm like, okay, we should probably have one together. Um, so we
Okay,
did.
fine, let's do
Okay,
this.
fine. So I gave birth in March. I became pregnant in July. I had a miscarriage, and then I had then got pregnant right away. I think like the next month or two, and then he was born July the following year. So I definitely was like pregnant right away. I remember
Well,
people
they
being
say
like,
your chances of getting pregnant are greater when you were just pregnant.
"Oh,
So if you had a miscarriage, then you're more likely to get pregnant again right away, which was my experience as well.
oh, I
Yeah.
never heard that, but that would make sense." Yeah, it was like instant.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I gave birth to him in July of 2021, and now here we are in 25. But last year, I always knew I wanted to do it again. I knew that I was kind of pushing the age limit, and I actually was going to do it for the same mom before because she had more embryos and she wanted to have another child. But when I checked in with her, when I was like, okay, where are you at? She's like, I don't know if I want to have another one,
Yeah.
or at least not right now. And I said, okay, fair enough. But she's like, I know, if that's something you want to do, then, I support you. So I met so my intended parents now are two men. They're here, they live here close in San Francisco, and
Oh, that's wonderful.
I know it is. Ask me how many times I've seen them. Um, they're like closer, but I never see them. We met through some mutual friends. I had a friend who married this gay couple, and they were in the surrogacy journey as well. And They had met me because they were interested in possibly me being a surrogate. Long story short, that didn't end up working out. And so when their friends, who are now my intended parents, were like, we're looking for somebody, they're like, we have the perfect person. You have to meet Heather. And so we did like an interview over Zoom and instantly like fell in love with them. They're just like so sweet. They have a surrogate baby already. So they've already been through the journey. Their last surrogate couldn't have any more babies. I think from her age, something happened, like she wasn't able to do it again. And they did it independent. So they also didn't do an agency last time. And so they already kind of knew how it worked without going through an agency. And I was like, well, I've already been through it. So I feel pretty confident that like we can manage this together. It's the same fertility clinic that we had at my last journey. And their lawyer is my lawyer from my last journey. So like I just felt like we had the people around us to support us.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was back in 2024. I was looking at like emails. We met back early 2024. Our first transfer didn't happen until this last May. Went to San Diego. They came with me. That's when I got to like really hang out with them. They were with me the whole 2 days. They spoiled me. They took me to dinner. Like we laid poolside after the transfer, and they're just super sweet. That transfer didn't happen for whatever reason. They said the embryo wasn't strong enough or wasn't healthy enough to move forward. And so I just had my second attempt 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. And today just went in for my blood work to see if I'm pregnant. So that's where we're at on that journey.
And so far, since you were not using a company this time, like, is there differences of like, or during that first Zoom, did you hash out like, what are the wants? What are the desires? What if I want to eat fast food and you're against it? Or, like, how does all of that stuff work? Like, do they want to say and like how you treat your body or, like
Yeah.
all of those questions? Cause I would have those.
They did. We did talk about those in our first meeting. We also, even though we didn't go through an agency, we still have like a psychologist that's like, she's kind of our mediator if something were to happen. She'll do check-ins with me to make sure like I'm good. We have her as a resource. We did a call together, all together, my husband included, about those things. Like, here's what they were comfortable with. Here was what I was comfortable with. And we had mutual agreement on everything.
And does it get strict? I mean, could they potentially say, like, we only want you to gain 30 pounds, or, like, I want to make sure you're eating this or taking these prenatals, or, like,
They could. They didn't though, because they're like, you've already had 3 babies. And then you also were a surrogate before. Like we obviously like trust you, and of course it's the norms, like no coffee, no alcohol, like the basic things pregnancies, do. And they weren't like super strict on things. I knew going into it on my first journey, the mom was not super excited about me working out. I worked out for the first probably like 3 months. And then actually, to be honest, I really didn't want to after that. Like I was like, I'm going to stay fit through this pregnancy and blah, blah, blah. That went away. And so I think they want me to know and like understand my body of like what is not okay. But yeah, all those things are kind of talked about. Prenatals are a must. Like there's certain things that are a must per the contract, especially going into the transfer. And yeah, you just, you obey by them.
yeah. And did you find any of that hard or uncomfortable in the first bout?
Not really. We actually had a pretty good experience. I've read horror stories. There's more surrogacy podcasts now. There's some awful stories out there. Awful, awful,
Mhm.
awful stories. I've been one of the fortunate ones to like have a really great experience. The only thing that we stumbled upon was remember the fires back in 2019? And
Mhm.
of course, being somebody who's not from here and seeing the news, they were like, California's on fire. And so she had a lot of anxiety around that. And so there was a point where she wanted me to like leave the area because of the smoke. And so I did. I just went to Sacramento and took a week off by myself. But that was hard because I'm like, I have a job, I have a home, I have 2 children, and we're in a fire area. Like, what if we get evacuated? Like, what, my husband's supposed to evacuate on his own? So it was scary.
Yeah.
We had to get the agency involved to like figure out how to navigate that because I basically like refused to leave. I was like, I'll stay at home, but like I don't want to leave the area. And there's a lot of back and forth, and I was like, you know what? I respect that this is your baby and you want her to be safe, and so I just left. And
And how did your kids handle all of this? Not just the incident with you leaving, but just in general, like mom being pregnant and then there's no baby, how did that, and you didn't have your little guy at that point, so it was just the
mm-mm.
older kids. And how
Yeah,
did your stepkids handle that?
so my stepdaughter was at the time, so she was, let's see, 20, that was 5 years ago. So she was 14. So she's at the age that my daughter is now. She definitely wasn't super like was okay with it, but wasn't super wanting to be involved. And we only
Yeah,
had
'cause
her
she's
every other
14.
weekend. Yeah, like
Yeah.
she was kind of like whatever,
Do
Um
it, you weirdo,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
seriously, well, you're doing what? But she wasn't like, negative in any way. She just was like, whatever. My daughter was 7, no, 8. She was kind of like, I found a book, and that's how I told them. Like, I read them in the book about what a surrogate is and like how, how the process works. Not to
Mhm.
the process, but like why people have them. And so they were accepting of it. My son was 5, so he really didn't know anything. He's just like, mommy's pregnant. But when people would ask, he said, oh, mommy, that's not my little brother or sister. My mommy is carrying it for somebody else. So
Oh, yeah.
he like knew. And so they were both supportive of it. When I gave birth, they came with me after the birth to go meet the baby. And so they both wanted to do that. And so that was really a special moment for them to, see her and meet her and know, like, okay, this is what mom had been doing this whole time.
So, did the mother stay in town for a little bit after you had the baby?
She stayed 2 days, and then they had to fly home because that's when the airlines were all starting to shut down, and no one could travel anymore. So they luckily got home in time. She was super nervous about, flying a newborn home
Yeah.
in the middle of COVID, which totally get it. She was going to pay for a private jet to take her home. She was that serious about it. She ended up getting first class and like being the first one off. No, being the first one on the plane. No, the last one on the plane, first one off. So she
Yeah.
had very minimal interaction, but it was scary. It was a scary time for sure because we all didn't know.
Yeah.
But fast forward, my kids, my stepdaughter now is excited. Now she's older. She doesn't even live around here. My 14-year-old and my 11-year-old now, they're definitely not super excited about it. They don't really talk about it. They know that I'm doing it, but they're not super. So I wouldn't say supportive, but not like excited, I would
Well,
say.
they're also at that age too where they're in puberty and all of those things. So I don't know if they get excited. Like I have a stepson, he's 14, and it takes a lot for him to get excited about anything,
Yeah.
like it's just that time too. But I would think like my daughter, she's 8, like I could imagine her being like, "Wait, we're giving this baby up? Like why? No, like I can't imagine how hard that would be because she would love to have a sibling. She
Yeah.
always tells me that. And so I think it would be challenging, a challenging conversation. I think reading the book is great. And I think it's great that your son was like, we're giving this baby, this baby's for somebody else. That's like the ultimate giving and empathetic that, like I think it's just going to create good values for those kids as well.
I think long term for sure. And I think that
Absolutely.
they're going to see the value in it. My 14-year-old, she's now on social media. So she sees me talking about it all the time. So she sees like where we're at, obviously.
Mhm.
My 11-year-old definitely has questions. He's done because he's like learning about sex and all that stuff. So he's like,
Yeah.
wait, how do you get the baby in there? You know what
You're
I
like,
mean? So
"I'm not sure yet."
he's
That's a whole
very
different sex ed conversation for sure.
he literally went through sex ed in May, like, and
Yeah.
when I was like going through the transfer. So he's very, so, we had to like have that conversation. And then my 4-year-old, for some reason, I don't know if he's like picking up like conversations, but he always talks about having a baby in my belly.
Mhm.
He drew a picture of me last night and was like, look at mommy. there's a baby in your belly. So like he gets it, but it's gonna definitely he's gonna not understand. He's gonna understand me being pregnant, but not like coming home with a baby. I think
Yeah.
that will be harder to navigate.
When you were filling out the application process in the very beginning, did you want to have a relationship with this baby? Like, I assume
Mhm.
that's a question. Like, is this an
Mhm.
open and closed thing, or, how does that work?
Yes, it definitely that is like number one question. And I said, yeah, like want to get updates. I want to know how they're doing. If they ever wanted to meet me, I would be open to it. I definitely want to keep it that way. And both parents agree. What's nice is even my current parents now, they still talk to their last surrogate, and they have a really great relationship. And I love that we're close because then I can see them more. And they send me videos and photos of their son who's a year and a half now. And this really special bond happens. And so when I hear the stories of that not happening, it like breaks my heart because I'm like,
Yeah.
these people, there's a wild story right now out in the media about this family who had 20 babies from 20 different surrogates, and 10 of them are now pregnant. There's 20 that have already been born, and there's 10 more that are pregnant. And there was like this whole freaking scandal, and they're in jail, and these 10 women are about to give birth, and they have no idea what's happening to these babies. Like, it's absolutely wild.
That's like some Jerry Springer shit. Like,
That's why I'm like, education is so important around surrogacy. The right way to do it. Why you get an agency involved. But the crazy thing is, these people thought they were going through an agency, but like
that's
you've got to know the red flags for
yeah.
sure. There was a
Yeah.
lot of things that
Well,
happened.
I'm so grateful that's not happening to you.
No.
Oh my
But
God.
yeah, it's a scary place out there for sure. And like, people want to make an easy, I wouldn't say it's easy money, but it's money that you don't have to like work so hard for. It's an impact on your body, but I think people are like, oh, well, I'll make 100 grand to be pregnant again. But like, there's so much more behind it. There's so much emotional stuff that happens that you can't just like treat it that way.
Hmm. Do you think you're treating this one differently than the first time?
No, because like I said, if I could do it 5 more times, I would. Like, if I could just give everybody babies, I would give everybody babies. People have asked me, like, why I wouldn't do it for a friend or somebody close to me, because I do have friends who are struggling with fertility right now, and I would love to be able to do that. I personally think emotionally, I don't think I could do that. If I knew, especially these people are like super close to me, I don't think I emotionally separated. At least with these journeys, they don't live around here. They are a little bit further away. They're a little more removed from like my everyday life.
Yeah.
That I feel like emotionally it's a little easier. Of course, the financial part of it is great. It's helps you pay down debt. Some people put down money for a house, put money to college. Like, all of that I think is super important. But really, like, giving a family a baby is what it's all about.
It's a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
You get to help somebody else and you get to feed that part in you that wants to make an impact in somebody's lives. They get a baby, you get a check. I mean, like it sounds like a great, even in the beginning when you were talking about her being in the room and the baby going to her, like I felt emotional just for her. Like, holy shit, this brand new, amazing, the best gift in the world is happening and being given to me. And like just as a mom, you know how connected you are to your children and that bond, and it's exciting,
hmm
you
I
know.
think it'll be interesting this time around. People questioning maybe the choice of who I picked as intended parents versus like me doing it for a woman who can't have a baby.
Mhm.
I always wanted to do it for a male, like a same sex male couple, because I know that there's couples out there that deserve to have children and they don't get to organically. It's not as easy for them. And I wanted to be able to give at least a family that experience. And that was, when I meet the guys, that was something that was super important to me. Like, are they good guys? Are they meant to be good fathers? Like, how do they show up? Because that's super important to me. And when I met them and I see how they interact with their current son, I'm like, yes, like it's people like that, it's humans like that that deserve to have children. And so
Yeah. These are just two good people having a child.
Yeah. And I think it'll be a different experience. I think they're involved, but there's no emotional when I was caring for the mom, she could never be pregnant. So there was like this a different emotional thing with me, like
Mhm.
maybe jealousy, maybe, so like I had to treat it differently. I always asked her like, how much information do you want? Like she'd be like, send me photos of your tummy, and I'm like, oh, did you want that? But then I also had to remember like she's never going to be able to experience this journey on her own. And so
Mhm.
there was a different emotional attachment that happened there, and expectations, where I think it's different with the guys. They're not like jealous that they're never going to be pregnant, or
Yeah.
so it'll be, I think emotionally it'll be a little bit different experience this time.
Are you going to have them in the room?
Oh yeah, for sure. And my husband.
They want to like be down there all up in it. Are you good with that?
So one of them is a nurse, actually, and he already asked me. He's like, "Do you care if I give birth to the baby? Like, can I be?" And I was like, "I don't. It's your baby, sure." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm like, this will be my fifth birth. I don't care who sees down there.
Yeah. They don't want what you got down there anyways.
Yeah,
So,
I'm like, so many people have seen down there. Like, I don't care.
yeah,
Doesn't
who
bother
cares
me.
what it looks like at that point? I had a planned C-section because my daughter was breech.
Mm,
So I never had that like, I don't even care anymore, just get the baby out of me type feeling. And I can remember when I went in for, you like stroll in for a 9 a.m. appointment to have a baby. I remember they put the catheter in and you're like, just wide open. And I was very sober, like there were no meds on board. I wasn't exhausted from trying to push, so I was like, yeah, there's a lot of people in this room and I am just open to the world and okay, here we go, but it's just such a different scenario. So I always wonder like I know I've heard when you're in that moment, you could like care less. There's only one because of the pain and the discomfort and the one goal is
Well, it's
just
so
to get
funny.
it.
You go into these labor rooms and like they're all facing like hoo ha to the door. So
Yeah.
anybody who's walking into the door is gonna see something. And then like when you're about to give birth, like a whole freaking army comes in. I remember one of my pregnancy or one of my births, they were like, "Oh, can we have an intern in here?" I was like, "Whatever." Like if they want to learn how to like this is part of their job, it's fine. So to me, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm like,
Yeah.
if you want to deliver your baby, go for it.
Yeah. We had an intern. He was young and good looking. And I was like, you're welcome. Here we go.
I'm actually
Um,
really funny when
yeah.
I'm giving birth. I know that sounds really weird, except for my when I gave birth to my son, because I was sick, I was like, oh, I almost died of COVID during that labor experience, so it was a little bit different. But even then, I was still like joking around because I'm like, it's not time to be serious. Like we're just having babies here. Come on.
Yeah. Let's just go for it.
Yeah,
So, will your husband and the two dads be in the room?
if they can. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, when you negotiated this time around, were you like, did you negotiate things different? Was the price point higher?
Oh, I
Like,
meant to say that I was going to compare that. So yes, so like going into it, because their lawyer was my lawyer, like I was like, I want at least the similar contract. They actually put more money into it, and they gave me like I asked for chiropractic, so they're gonna pay for my chiropractic for a certain amount of time. So they definitely wanted to take care of me a little bit more than what I had last time. So yes, so I feel good about that.
and were there any special requests that they had, like that they wanted to make sure you did or didn't do? Or,
Mm-mm. No, they were cute though. The other day I had a head cold and it was after the transfer, and they're like, "Don't forget, you can only take Tylenol." And I was like, "I know, I got you."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yes, and obviously, being pregnant so many times, like I already know, like I've stopped the alcohol, I've limited the caffeine, I'm on, no Tylenol only.
yeah.
And I've had this is my second head cold that I got, and I'm like, come on, this is not normal. And I've been getting a lot of headaches, but I'm like, you just have to work through it. And if there was ever questions, I would just ask them.
Yeah, and it would be hard because I'm kind of a control freak. So I'd be like, remember, you can't, you can only do this or that, even though I know they know, there's something in me that's like, "Bleh," and I have to say it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure him being a nurse is the same thing as he's just got to say it because then you're like,
And he did. And I'm like, and I'm totally okay with it, you know? And again, this is their baby. It's not my baby. And if they want things certain ways, then that's what will happen, you know?
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, well, Heather, thank you so much for sharing this journey. So, what's next? So, you had your blood work today. You'll find out if you get a positive pregnancy.
Yes,
What
and
does
I
that
can
look
I
like?
can verbally tell you because this isn't going out anytime in like in the next week or two, but I did take a pregnancy test and I am pregnant. It says I'm pregnant.
And
I
did you
did
tell them that?
I did not tell them that. Technically, we're not supposed to. I guess I could have. If they really wanted to know, I would have told them.
Yeah.
But last time, my last transfer, I took a pregnancy test like 4 days after, and it showed I was pregnant. So I knew in my head I was pregnant. I went in for my first blood work. They obviously said I was pregnant, but I went in for my second, and the hormone levels were not elevating the way that they should. So, which is basically showing that I miscarried.
Yeah.
And so that was like a bummer. So that's why I'm like, I'm not saying anything to anybody until I get that second one back because
Mhm.
that will determine how the progress is happening. So yeah,
And will you find out today?
I should know today that they do like a stat thing, like a stat request, and then I'll go Wednesday. So probably by Wednesday afternoon, I'll know for sure like what's happening.
And would that mean you're 2 weeks pregnant?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
always confused about it because with surrogacy, it's a little bit different because the embryo is already produced it's already grown to a certain
Yeah.
point. So when they transfer it, it's like already like 5 day embryo,
But you're
you
still
know?
pregnant for 40 weeks.
Correct. I think it's like 30. It's a little less than 40. So
Yeah.
once they say that I'm pregnant, I think they tell you like you'll be due this time. And then once I'm confirmed pregnant on Wednesday, then I'll go to a local fertility clinic for I think it's like 3 different, your month check-ins to sonograms. And then after that I'll get released to my OB.
Mhm. And then you're still taking the injections?
Yes, they're
Gotcha.
miserable, but yes.
Yes. They probably make you feel good though. Progesterone's like your hot girl hormone.
That's what they say. I haven't felt that way this time, and I'm actually wondering if it's because I'm already going through perimenopause, and so
Mhm.
I think my hormones were already all over the place,
Your
and now I
body's like,
feel like
"What the fuck is going on?"
serious. My husband's like, "What is wrong with you?"
You're like upset, but then happy. Yeah, that's yeah.
It's been a very emotional last few months for sure for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I was already going through a lot, and like my husband and I are like going through a lot with the businesses and the kids and all the things. It's been a lot. So I'm actually really excited to just be pregnant and just like enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's something you really love and then you get some time off and you get to check out and you also have this side dish of like this amazing thing you're doing for somebody else. That has to feel so good too. So it softens the blow of whatever else is happening in normal life, you know?
Yeah, and I was really trying to take this opportunity to slow down in my business just to like regroup. And
Yeah.
so financially, that will help, kind of sustain us a little bit until I figure out what's next to my business and what I like really want to lean into.
Yeah. Sounds
And
like the
so,
perfect timing
yeah,
for that
I'm gonna
gift.
enjoy being pregnant during the winter time and wear cozy clothes. And
Yeah, have cozy blankets and a body pillow and binge watch, the next season of Ted Lasso.
I haven't watched that one. I'll have to watch that
Oh
one.
my god, you have to stop right now and watch it. It's the
Okay,
best show.
that's what I've heard. I need to watch it. I do have to say, and I think you'll relate to this. I think one of the biggest things that I'm struggling with right now is drinking. And because I am a social drinker,
Mhm.
and I have kids and they make me want to drink and have a glass of wine at the end of the night. But I know in the last 6 months that like this is something that I need to stop. One
Mhm.
for my emotional, how it made me feel. I was never able to do it on my own, and now I feel like this is my excuse to stop drinking. And I've been really excited about it, but
Yeah.
then part of me is still missing it.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, let's go have drinks or let's go have mimosas. And I feel like I'm like, damn. But I'm like, so that is like the one thing that mentally I'm kind of like navigating through right now. And so I've
Mhm.
really like been hunkering down, like just stay at home, let's go for walks instead of like having a glass of wine for dinner, like let's go for a walk and trying to like shift my mindset. And I know it'll like in a month or two it'll go away. But that's like, it's like I'm grieving that part of my
It
life.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Alcohol can be like your best friend, it doesn't always have to be shitty. It can be this really nice reprieve and this break and this, I know that I'm gonna feel a little bit less worried about all of the things. So I definitely think it's grieving a loss of that, and I think that's totally normal, and you just have to honor that, and I think what you're doing that's really great is that you're replacing it with something physical.
Hmm.
Like, that's a no-brainer. That is so smart. So well done, Heather, because that's exactly what you should be doing, as
Yeah.
opposed to like, okay, now I'm gonna drink just
Soda.
orange juice, which is full of sugar and carbohydrates, like all of that. Like, you're replacing it with something that's better for your body. Plus, a meal after or a walk after a meal is gonna help stabilize your blood sugar, which is even better. That's better for you, that's better for the baby and all of the things. So, you replace something with something really healthy, and I commend you for that because not a lot of people do that.
Thank you. And even like after this pregnancy, I think health is one thing that I really want to focus on, especially because I am getting older and
Mhm.
I want to get on a better routine. I want to stop drinking or limiting what I drink.
Yeah.
And so I'm like kind of excited about this journey and then to see what happens after.
Yeah, I think you'll find that alcohol doesn't serve you. I
Yeah.
think it's just going to dim whatever light you have, whether it's motivating in your business or the way you are as a mom or the way you show up as a wife. It's going to handicap all of that, even if it's just one or two drinks twice a week. It's a central nervous system depressant and
Hmm.
it will do its job.
Hmm.
It will
Yeah.
definitely do its job if you let it. So, yeah, just see the shift, see how you feel. Do you like life better without it? Like I don't drink, I drink sparkling water, like I too stayed away from like going to bars and going out to eat because it was hard. It is definitely hard socially. I mean, now I could care less about anything. Like and that kind of came quickly. I mean, it wasn't very long, maybe 6 months to a year to where I was like, "Okay, I just don't drink. It is what it is." Like, if you don't like it or if what I notice is it makes other people who have an issue with drinking uncomfortable to be around you because it somehow puts a light on their issue. If you say you have this baby and you're like, "Just choose not to drink," and you're out and you tell somebody that, I just feel better without it. The person with the problem or feels some type of way about drinking is gonna be the one who's like, "Oh, come on, you could do it. You could just have that," whereas your husband or your supportive friends are gonna be like, "That's great," and
Hmm.
support you. And
Hmm.
and that's one thing I noticed very quickly on is me not drinking made other people feel uncomfortable.
Interesting. I
Yeah,
can absolutely see that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, do what works for you.
Thanks.
Have a drink after, and if you're like, "Ah, just didn't like it," then now you know.
Yep.
You gotta maybe you're testing the theory, but there's obviously been bouts of when you didn't drink.
Hmm.
Think about it, or what would this drink do for you at this time?
Yep.
Would it feel good for 25 minutes?
Yep.
You know? And
Yeah.
I just say keep replacing it with those walks, with those better healthy choices. It's a no-brainer, girl.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know. It was just something that has been on my mind lately of like what I'm navigating. Like when people go, "How do you feel?" I'm like, "I feel fine," but that's something that I'm been having to adjust to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it sounds like to me you're being pretty savvy about the way you're doing things right now. You're like, I need a reprieve on my business. Maybe I need to dial things back. I don't want to drink. So these things are just lining up. Like this is clearly just all meant to be. If you have these desires and these things you want to change and all of these things are lining up, I would say like it's all falling in place. Like this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that reminder.
Good. I'm glad. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for talking about this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And I
and
can't
if you
wait to
wanted me to come on
hear what
post,
happens
maybe to
in this
talk
journey.
about that experience and how it's different or anything that I learned along the way, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think this topic and this conversation will resonate with the audience. So I think they would love a part two. I would as well.
Awesome. Happy to come back.